Jeremy had one older sister who was about 4 years older. Jeremy's parents, Joseph and Wanda Delle, were married for 9 years. Shortly before their marriage ended, Joseph and Wanda bought a house in the Garland, Dallas suburb in the 3700 block of Classic Drive. Jeremy was 5 and his sister was almost 9 when the separation of their parents began. The divorce filed in May 1979 was finalized in July 1979. Joseph and Wanda agree to sell their house. Wanda becomes the primary custodial parent of Jeremy and his sister. Joseph is ordered to pay child support and medical expenses. He remarries on November 11, a short 4 months after his divorce was finalized. Wanda and her 2 children moved into an apartment at the 8700 Shiloh Road apartment building in Dallas. Jeremy starts school in 1980-81 school year. He is enrolled in kindergarten at Truett Elementary in Dallas, Texas. In 1982, at the young age of 7 years old, Jeremy Delle proved his artistic skills by winning an award for drawing this picture of an elephant. In 1983, Jeremy draws this beautiful piece of artwork featuring a deer near trees. Also in 1983, after about 4 years of marriage, Joseph and his second wife get a divorce, and about a year later, on April 7, 1984, Wanda remarries. In the same year, Jeremy, his sister, mother, and her husband moved into a house on the 2600 block of San Paula Drive in Dallas, Texas. As a result of this move, Jeremy is enrolled in Lakewood Elementary for the 1984-85 school year. Jeremy is in 4th grade. Jeremy would be enrolled in the same Lakewood school for the 85-86 school year, grade 5. In May of 1986, Jeremy would once again move, this time in a house on the 2600 block of Jonesboro in Dallas, Texas. In September, he will be enrolled to start grade 6 at the Truett Elementary School for the 1986-87 school year. In 1987, Jeremy Delle starts grade 7 at Gaston Middle School. He repeats 7th grade in the 1988-89 school year and passes. By the end of the 1989 school year, Jeremy is promoted to 8th grade. Jeremy goes on to start 9th grade at Bryan Adams High School for the school year 1989-90. Shortly after Jeremy starts his 9th grade school year, Joseph Delle buys a house in the 600 block of Rarary Drive in Richardson, Texas. In March of 1990, Jeremy attends a retreat sponsored by Casa View Baptist Church. There he meets Nancy and the two begin dating. On March 14, 1990, Jeremy is withdrawn from 9th grade at Bryan Adams High School and starts to attend Richardson Junior High School in Richardson after moving in with his father in the house on the 600 block of Rarary Drive. In April of the same year, Nancy breaks up with Jeremy. 2 days later, Jeremy is hospitalized after attempting suicide by an overdose of pills. As a result of the attempted suicide, Jeremy is admitted into an inpatient adolescent program at Timberlawn Psychiatric Hospital in Dallas. On June 11, Joseph and Wanda modify custody of Jeremy. Joseph is now the primary custodial parent of Jeremy. In July of 1990, Jeremy meets Michelle at the Timberlawn Psychiatric Hospital. They begin to date. In the same month, Jeremy was out on a pass to come home from Timberlawn. Jeremy drove to Nancy's house and threatened to shoot himself because of family and school problems. In October of 1990, Jeremy is released from Timberlawn Psychiatric Hospital and Michelle and Jeremy broke up. Jeremy started school at Richardson High School on October 16, 1990. By Christmas 1990, Jeremy's locker had been searched 3 times. 2 searches were of note. One yielded several bottles of whiteout and a book titled Colts That Kill, the other yielded a deer's leg. In November, a fellow student of Jeremy's told the school counselor that Jeremy had told her he wants to shoot himself. December 7 is the last day Jeremy attends his English class before his suicide. On December 11, Jeremy allegedly tells another student, "I don't need any more help from this school. I'm going to murder and then kill myself." Later on the same day, Jeremy allegedly stole $47 from a cash box after a basketball game held in the RHS gym. The next day around 9 a.m. the assistant principal of Richardson High is notified about Jeremy's previous threat to kill his math teacher. At 4:32 p.m. on December 12, police are notified of the threat Jeremy had made, and the Colts That Kill book and the deer leg that was found in Jeremy's locker. At 9:02 p.m. Jeremy is arrested for his alleged theft of the $47 from the cash box. Jeremy is questioned about the threat he made against the teacher. Jeremy's response was that he made a general comment and that the comment was twisted as it was passed from student to student. He also said he doesn't have a reason to hurt a school official. The police officers recommend counseling, and Joseph explains Jeremy's recent psychological treatment at Timberlawn. Joseph explains that he is looking into more options and he asks for the theft to be reported to the juvenile system so that maybe Jeremy could be given more help. Jeremy's appearance is noted by the police. Jeremy is 5'8", 140 pounds, has a conservative appearance, short straight brown hair, a cross tattoo on his left arm, 2 gold earrings in his left ear, and is wearing a jogging suit and tennis shoes. December 14, Jeremy is back in school. He is placed in school suspension. Police are notified that Jeremy will be patted down occasionally and that the school is working on having Jeremy committed to a treatment program. School officials are also advised about the situation with Jeremy. About a week after Christmas, Jeremy tells Michelle B. that he was given a gun. On January 3, 1991, Jeremy tells a classmate that he plans on killing his math teacher the next day. On January 6 around 11 a.m. Michelle talks to Jeremy on the phone. Later she explains that Jeremy seemed depressed and on acid. She also says that she told Jeremy she might be pregnant, and during the conversation, Jeremy told her that he would die for her. After her call with Jeremy, Michelle calls Jeremy's mom Wanda to say that Jeremy sounded strange on the phone. Michelle felt that Wanda did not show concern. On January 7, Jeremy spent his school day in school suspension. After school he catches a bus ride to his counseling appointment. At 6 p.m. the counseling session ends and Jeremy walks to his father's girlfriend's house. Jeremy paged his location to his father around 6:25 and is picked up around 7:20 p.m. Sometime in the evening Jeremy had called a fellow student from RHS. The student said that Jeremy had asked for help getting rid of a stolen stereo and getting drugs for a friend in rehab. He said Jeremy had also talked about being tired of the BS that he had been putting up with at home. Jeremy mentioned that he was in big trouble and that he was really mad at Joseph. At 8:30 Jeremy calls Wanda, and at 10 p.m. Jeremy has gone to bed. Tuesday, January 8, 1991. Joseph Delle left for work early in the morning on January 8. He called Jeremy about 2 hours later to make sure he was up and to tell him he needed to dress warm. Jeremy put on a gray sweatshirt over a gray t-shirt, white thermal underwear, a pair of jeans and 2 pairs of white socks. His shoes were brown leather work boots. Around 7:30 a.m. Jeremy reached Nancy via phone call. She was about to leave for school, but decided to talk to Jeremy for a few minutes. Jeremy told her that he and his dad would be moving to Tokyo that day. Their flight was at 3 and he wanted to know that if he came back, that Nancy would be there. She said she would be. He told her that he had gotten a ring from his dad's girlfriend's house and that he would be putting it in a letter for her. He also wanted to make sure that Nancy would be okay if he was gone. She said she would be. Nancy said the conversation left her thinking it was strange that Jeremy and his father would make such a move so abruptly. But on the phone, Jeremy had sounded so at peace, so much more than I had ever seen him. She thought he must be relieved that he was getting a new start. At 8:20 Jeremy pages his father to notify him that he had arrived at school. 40 minutes later Joseph would be notified that Jeremy had not arrived to his in-school suspension. Instead of going to in-school suspension, Jeremy went to a students' commons area called the Eagle's Nest. 2 sophomore girls were in the commons area skipping their first period study hall. Jeremy approached the girls, Andy Z and Jennifer. Andy greeted Jeremy. "Where have you been? I haven't seen you in weeks." He did not mention his in-school suspension, but he did tell Andy that he had been absent because he was visiting his girlfriend, Michelle, who was pregnant with his child, and that he would be moving to Houston to be with her. He asked Andy for a favor. Andy later states he reaches in his jacket and he pulls out this letter. It was already in an envelope, addressed, but it wasn't sealed, and he says, "Can you mail this for me? I'm not going to be around after school." Andy replied, "No problem." She says he reaches back into his jacket and he pulls out a diamond ring. Holding the ring in front of her, Andy recalled, he says, "I wanted to do this in front of you." Then he put the ring in the envelope and said, "I wanted you to see this so you knew how important it was to get mailed." After he gave the unsealed envelope to Andy, he left. Andy later told police he didn't look disturbed at all. While in the Eagle's Nest, Jeremy had also approached another girl, handed her a cigarette butt and said, "This is mine and something to remember me by." Andy went to the restroom to freshen up before her second period class. She stated that she had every intention of reading the letter, but as she reached in her bag for the envelope, the bell rang. And she thought to herself, "Well, I'm going to have it all day. I'm not mailing it until the end of the day." So she put the letter back in her purse and went to her second period class. 9:40 a.m. Instead of going to in-school suspension, Jeremy arrived late to his second period English class. Jeremy says he lost his slip to admit him back to class after in-school suspension, and he would get another one from the office. Miss Barnett gives Jeremy a hall pass. Before leaving the classroom, Jeremy walked to the back of the class, took off his coat and placed it on his desk. He leaves the room and walks to his locker. It is believed this is when he grabbed the gun. He then enters his English classroom, put his hall pass on his teacher's desk and says something similar to, "Miss, this is what I went for." He then pulls out a gun, puts it in his mouth and shoots. Jeremy Dell's suicide took place in front of a full classroom of 30 students. The classroom was B201 and the gun was a .357 Smith & Wesson Model 19-4. At 9:47 a.m. Jeremy's suicide is reported to police. At 10:30 a.m. the medical examiner is notified. 30 minutes later the medical examiner arrives at the scene and Jeremy is pronounced dead. 12:01 p.m. Jeremy's body is ordered to be transported to the morgue by the medical examiner. 12:02 to 12:15 p.m. Jeremy's locker number 540 is searched by police. At 12:30 p.m. Jeremy's body is transported to the morgue by ambulance. Police try to notify Wanda at 12:50, Joseph had already been contacted, and has notified Wanda's husband. The medical examiner begins to perform an autopsy on Jeremy at 1:30 p.m. Jeremy's appearance is noted by the examiner. He had green eyes, straight brown hair and 3 tattoos, a cross on his upper left chest, a 13 on the back of his left hand, and an unspecified one on his left arm. He was wearing a gray sweatshirt, gray t-shirt, jeans, leather belt, white thermal underwear, 2 pairs of white socks and brown leather work boots. He had a gold left earring, gold necklace, silver watch on his left wrist, black comb in his pocket and a brown holster on his waistband. Powder burns on his left hand were noted. And the toxicology report tests came back negative. Wanda is notified about the suicide sometime between 1:30 and 2:15. Around 4:30 p.m. police officers arrived at Timberlawn to interview Michelle. Michelle tells the officers that she is pregnant, but the baby is not Jeremy's.
Dear blank family. I hope everything is going well down there. I'm sorry this letter is not as friendly as you or I would want it. This letter was written before I committed suicide. I'm just writing to thank you again for letting me stay there. Mr. and Miss Blank, keep up the good work with Chris and Blank, and yourselves. Blank, you are very very pretty. I hope you make some guy happy. Your parents too. Chris, you mean the most to me, you know how I feel. Sorry I let you guys down. Yours truly. Jeremy Wade Dell. P.S. Call my dad for funeral info. Blanked out phone number. Sorry Nancy. By the time you get this letter I will have blown my head off. AKA suicide, better known as last way out. News flash, not your fault. It's Michelle's. Along with about 137.5 other problems. I was just writing to see if you wanted to go to the funeral. Call my house and ask for my dad, 690-5338. At least you didn't have to hear the boom. Love, Jeremy Wade Dell.
At the time of Jeremy's death he was 5'8" and weighed 128 pounds. He was described as having had a conservative appearance. His eyes were a stunning green, his hair straight and brown. He had a kind smile and subtle freckles. Jeremy was only 15 years old the day he died. According to Jeremy's father, Joseph Delle. Joseph described Jeremy as a very bright, artistic, and curious young man. He had many interests and hobbies including scuba diving, flying, karate, playing drums, and drawing. Mr. Delle also stated that Jeremy had a hard time dealing with the divorce. Jeremy suffered from depression and his parents had sought counseling for him. Joseph also said Jeremy had a tendency to lie and that his only goal was to get a car and a girl pregnant. There were never any plans for Joseph and Jeremy to move to Japan. Jeremy's parents were rarely seen at RHS, but Joseph had come into the school office to communicate with officials about Jeremy's truancy. The police interviewing Joseph Delle noted that Joseph seemed to care about his son but also seemed to have a hard time expressing it. In the report, police stated that Mr. Delle did not seem to be affected by his son's death at all and only showed anger at minor issues, like who tells Jeremy's mother. Joseph did show concern for his son. He was very concerned with Jeremy receiving the proper mental health treatment. He also gave Jeremy a pager so Jeremy could page Joseph when he arrived at school.
That day that he died did not define his life.
Wanda is Jeremy's mother.
He was a son, a brother, a nephew, a cousin, a grandson. He was a friend. He was talented. I was at my office work.
And what was your immediate reaction?
I didn't believe it. I was in shock. Not my son. I was going to pick him up that afternoon at school.
Even now, his mother is not sure as to the why.
How did you get through the fact that it happened in front of children?
I didn't think about it. I mean, you literally go into a fog. Through this in 1982.
When you walk into Wanda's home today, Jeremy is everywhere.
His Best of Shows ribbon. He won first prize at the Texas State Fair. He won Best of Shows. And this is all before he was, 12 years old.
He drew this award-winning picture of an elephant when he was just 7 years old. Jeremy clearly had a gift.
This is the room where we meet each Wednesday night.
12 years ago, Wanda decided to move on by helping others. She started leading a grief support group at her church.
When you see school shootings now, what do your eyes see?
I think of the mothers. I think of the sisters. I think what'll be said or what opinions would be thought about the student. But it's the mothers and the sisters that I want to wrap my arms around and tell them that someday it'll be better.
That was Cynthia Aguirre reporting. If you or anyone you know feels hopeless and needs someone to talk to, call the National Suicide Prevention Line. That phone number is 1-800-273-TALK.
Information about Jeremy given by Nancy. Jeremy sent Nancy detailed artistic letters in which he often talked about suicide. Nancy's description of Jeremy: nice-looking with a good personality, but he had anger problems with his parents, school problems, drug problems, and depression problems. Nancy and Jeremy dated from March 8 to April of 1990. Nancy stated that she broke up with Jeremy because he was possessive and had problems with drugs and depression. 2 days after the breakup, he attempted suicide by overdosing on pills. In July 1990, Nancy states 2 more incidences where he spoke of killing himself to her. He blamed his problems on his parents and his sister. He used marijuana, acid, ecstasy, and alcohol. He had problems at school. He thought his dad was strict. He had trouble dealing with life. He was an atheist. He was listening to music groups that sang about death and suicide. He told Nancy he was molested by his grandfather when he was a child. He told her that he smoked pot with his dad on occasion. He told her that at Timberlawn he met Michelle and she had his child, but miscarried. Michelle said that Jeremy wanted a commitment from her and possible marriage someday. She said she could not make this commitment. She considered Jeremy her friend and nothing more. Because of this, she felt as if Jeremy's suicide was her fault. She said she could not handle a romantic relationship with Jeremy. They dated for 3 months. Jeremy was upset that they never had sex. She said he would make side remarks about suicide in conversations and phone calls. Michelle thought this was strange. Jeremy would send Michelle handwritten letters with drawings. According to police, Jeremy's penmanship was neat and the letters were artistic, and his letters expressed love and longing for a family of his own with Michelle. 2 days before Jeremy's suicide, Michelle had told Jeremy that she might be pregnant, but it was not Jeremy's child. Michelle's statements about Jeremy: he always seemed depressed. She knew he was doing acid. Jeremy liked the Red Hot Chili Peppers and music like the Skinheads listened to. He called her often. He gave her the number of Wanda and tried to set up the place as a meeting place because it was only 5 minutes away from Timberlawn. He also visited her at Timberlawn. Last time was in the week before Christmas 1990. He told her that he had gotten a gun for Christmas. Jeremy would ask schoolmates at RHS if they had access to a gun and if he was able to purchase it. Jeremy mentioned to another student that he had gotten a pistol for hunting purposes and that he was unsure if he would be able to kill anything with it. It is not stated where Jeremy got the .357 Magnum Model 19-4 that he used to kill himself.
And a little over 8 months ago, I attempted to take my own life. I guess from the outside looking in, I had an ideally perfect life. My parents were together, they loved me, they cared about me. I like to think I was well liked by my friends and classmates. I was a cheerleader. I was happy, outgoing, and always smiling on the outside. But what no one knew was I was fighting battles within. Anxiety and depression had taken over my life, and I didn't even know it. I felt trapped and helpless. I thought that no one would understand my struggles. I was always ashamed of the way I felt, and I thought that if I opened up, people wouldn't look at me the same. So June 7th was probably one of my darkest days No, it was my darkest day. Things got just too dark to where I couldn't even imagine a life anymore. I thought that there was no other way out. I knew my dad had a gun, and I pulled the trigger. The first thing I felt emotionally was regret. As I lied there, hearing the blood pour out of the back of my neck, the only thought going through my head was, oh my gosh, I do not want to die. Oh my gosh, I do not want to die. What did I just do? What did I just do? What did I just do? But on a hopeful note, I was saved that day. And now, thankfully and humbly, I'm fighting to live a happy and healthy life. I felt that having gone through everything that I went through and am still going through and struggling with, I felt like I would be doing a disservice to myself and everyone else by not sharing everything that happened. So I worked on a blog to just spread hope and awareness. And believe me, it's a lot easier to type than it is to speak. It's hard to say what I want to come out of it. The one thing I'm certain of is I just know that if it saves at least one person or even helps one person to just stand up and be like, hey, look, that's me, you know, I have those feelings and I have those thoughts, and not to be ashamed of it, then it's worth it. So y'all should check it out. It's liferejuvenated.org.